Is up, everybody? This is Keith Jamison, Go Back Guy 231 across the DFS industry. We are breaking down Saturday's 3-game EPL slate. We got really spoiled by all these like 5-6 gamers. Now we're back on the 3-game stretch. It appears we got packed fixtures coming up. So, during this holiday season, EPL just pumps out games like no other. So, the one thing just to be very, very wary of as, I'm going through these picks is just be careful of roster rotation. Soccer is one of the sports, much like NBA out there, that you can't really just set it and forget it hours in advance. Have to check lineups, make sure you're doing that. And just make sure that you understand all the different role changes that will happen. If X person is out, this person can be on set pieces. That's where the true advantage in soccer DFS is. So just a quick reminder before I get into the picks to like, subscribe, and comment on this video on the Mayo Media Network. And, subscribing to the channel will get you access to so much of the other content Pat and his team has out there. Also, if you're on the pod feed, make sure that you are subscribing to Daily Fantasy Picks and Bets the Mix so you can get those as well. And then finally, if you want more of my content, check me out at GatorGuy31 on Twitter. Can't say that. And if you want to check out even more, at FSI DFS on YouTube. Also, I'm starting DFS 101 for soccer. For those that want more info, got 2 episodes up there on the FSI channel, so make sure you check that out. All right, let's get into the 3 games, and we have 2 very, very heavy favorites and a solid favorite. So this is one where, you are going to have some goals. We have some highish totals and big favorites. So, it's not going to be complete a no-goal lineup like we like in the past. So Liverpool is the biggest favorite on slate, -500, hosting Aston Villa at home. It's hovering around a 3.25 total. Chelsea -400, hosting Leeds. That's hovering around 3. And then Arsenal -162, hosting Southampton. With those favorites, both Chelsea and Liverpool at -400 and above, we're going to have red and blue dominating our builds. Let's start at the top. Mohamed Salah, arguably the best player in the EPL this season. If you don't trust me on that, just look at his DraftKings logs, all the goals and assists. He's 10,800. As crazy as it sounds, I still don't think that he is a plug and play in optimals, despite the fact that he does not get less than double digits, that he gives you huge ceilings. I just think it's an opportunity cost situation where if you look down my list, you have Sadio Mane at 7,400. That's $3,400 difference. I know the game logs tell you that Salah is worth it, and I'm not saying he's not. Just if you build with Salah and you build with a Liverpool piece like Mane, the amount that you can do with that 3,400 is just crazy. And then if we look further down our list, we see Romelu Lukaku at 7,300, and you go, is Salah $3,500 better than Lukaku? Well, floor-wise, probably yes, but if both get a goal and not much else, then they're going to be pretty even. So for me, if Mane was 9,000 and Lukaku was 8,800, which is probably where they efficiently should be priced, right? Based on goal odds, based on just their pure talent. For me at 1,800, okay, I'm going to find the $1,800 to get to Salah, but just that difference is just pretty crazy. So Salah 10-8, if you can get there and you love everything else going on in your lineup, absolutely go for it. I love it. I'm about it. Just make it happen. But based on my builds, based on how I see the slate and just the depth of options that there are, whether that's at defender, whether that's at midfield, whether that's multiple options at forward, I think Salah at 10-8 is maybe a little bit of a stretch. 8,000 Trent Alexander-Arnold. I feel like we've had 3 or 4 straight Liverpool slates on the Mayo Media Network, and every single time I tell you that Trent Alexander-Arnold is too cheap. I told you it's too cheap at 9,000. He's certainly too cheap at 8,000 as a -500 favorite at home, taking a majority of set pieces, having huge crossing upside. Keep in mind with Trent Alexander-Arnold, if Liverpool is struggling to score, that is good for Trent Alexander-Arnold's DFS production. The more that Liverpool are waiting to score or are pummeling the net and not getting it and not, getting it past the keeper, like that is going to promote more and more crosses, more and more attack from Trent Alexander-Arnold, and it's just going to rack up the DFS points. So don't freak out with a play like Trent if Liverpool isn't scoring. That actually is in your benefit. More corners, more opportunities to cross. All of that is what you want for Trent Alexander-Arnold. And in cash games at 8,000, I don't see a way around it. Hakeem Ziyech. Now with Chelsea, I'm going to be assuming some rotation with some of these picks. With two of the picks specifically that I'm pointing out that I just want you to be aware of if they rotate. Chelsea just played on Wednesday in the Champions League in Russia. So Thomas Tuchel, knows that we're in this stretch of the holiday fixtures, that a lot of games are coming fast and heavy. He has a super deep squad, especially in the attacking positions. I already brought up Lukaku, but he has the ability to rotate out Mason Mount, Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, Callum Hudson-Odoi. Sure, there's more other ones that I'm not thinking of. Hakeem Ziyech, who we're talking about in that conversation as well. Ziyech came in with a ton of fanfare from Ajax, especially amongst the DFS community. We've been playing him for years in Champions League and just random slates that Ajax was on, and just a huge chance creator, can shoot a ton, just a lot of good DFS. It was a very much a disappointment last season. He is starting to show promise in the system this year. If DFS wise, he has now 4 straight games over double digits. Now there are 2 assists and a goal in there. So the floor is still not elite, but that's kind of what we get from a lot of Chelsea players, right? Outside of the wingbacks and, the occasional Mason Mount, who I think Ziyech could rotate in for, you just sometimes don't see huge floors in Chelsea. You're more looking for the goal or assist or the combo there. Ziyech does have a floor. We've seen him in the Champions League do 10, 12 DK in a half. We know that exists from Ajax, and as a -400 favorite at home to Leeds. If he is in, I think we've seen a history that when in, he has at least a share of set pieces, and the attacking role is really good. Sub 8,000. He definitely ranks up there in one of my favorite Chelsea pieces, if in. Okay, so again, what I said at the beginning of the show, don't just lock in pieces, and especially in EPL right now with all the games, make sure you're checking lineups. But if in, I think Hakeem Ziyech is very much on my short list. We talked about Sadio Mane and Lukaku. Both of them just too cheap for the role. Both have great scoring odds. They're on huge favorites, attacking players, huge talents, right? 2 probably the top 20 attackers in the world. So to get them as that big of a favorite at sub 8,000, just to me feels way too cheap. Also on the way too cheap spectrum, but now we're getting into, all right, we have, 2 of these forwards, right? Salah, Mane, Lukaku. I think that's where I'm going. We have an elite midfielder like Hakeem Ziyech, and if he's not in, we have to consider Mason Mount, who's more expensive, but certainly in the conversation, we're going to lock in Trent Alexander-Arnold. Well, salary's starting to get small, but then we have a guy like James Ward-Prowse, who, if you've been watching these videos for a while, is an absolute dream of mine. James Ward-Prowse finally got back to the James Ward-Prowse that we know and love last weekend. 11.5 DK, monopoly of set pieces that included 7 crosses. You go down his list, we have the 2 blurbs. We have the Leicester game, which was crazy, tilted my face off, 6.8 DK. Liverpool away, we can explain the 6.6, but before that, 18.3, 18.8, 9.8, 15.2, 7.3, 7.1, 14.5, 13.7. Those were floor games. It took out 2 games with the goal. James Ward-Prowse's floor is elite. Arsenal is also not a team that I shy away from, whether home or away. We know Arsenal, is not a dominant possession team. They're not devoid of giving away chances. So 6,700 for James Ward-Prowse, especially in a game where, as a dog, Southampton might actually get some really good opportunities in terms of having to push for the game if Arsenal gets up 1 or 2 goals to nil. James Ward-Prowse could go absolutely nuclear with corners, open play crosses from that little wide position that he likes to get in. And then we always have the upside of James Ward-Prowse's on penalty kicks. And it was one of the greater free kick takers in all of the world. So, James Ward-Prowse, 6,700, very much short list for cash. Marcus Alonso, 6,300. He was rotated out during the midweek. We saw Saul, I can't even say his last name correctly, but we saw Saul start left wing back. Chilwell is out. Marcus Alonso should come right back in. When in has been on a set piece share almost exclusively. So 6,300 as a Chelsea wing back. Those are phenomenal floor positions. Lock and load, 6,300 for me. Christian Pulisic is another one. It's kind of a hopeful rotation. We saw him play in the midweek as a sub. Came on for Timo Werner. I don't know if Lukaku can play all 90. I assume if they're up 2 or 3-0, Lukaku won't play 90. This is a really good chance that we see Christian Pulisic start. Sub 6,000. If you're an American soccer fan, I don't have to tell you much about Christian Pulisic. He's, our nation's soccer boy. It's just too cheap for the upside and for the spot. And then all of a sudden he's in. Now that's unlocking potentially going up to Salah, right? So if you didn't like the Lukaku Mane pairing that I mentioned, but all of a sudden you got Pulisic in, now all of a sudden getting doing like a Salah Pulisic, you still got a Liverpool and a Chelsea, and maybe you like that a little bit better than Lukaku and Mane. Ross Barkley, another Chelsea player that we need to look for in the rotation. Chelsea's midfield's really banged up. It seems like Jorginho, at the time of recording, it's way, way, way early on Friday morning. But at the time of recording, it seems like Jorginho is likely to play. Seems like if it was an absolute must-win, he could have played in Russia. I just decided not to risk it. We should know in press conferences later today. But Mateo Kovacic is out. Ross Barkley. Ruben Loftus-Cheeks was hurt in warmups. Saul has been really, really bad in the midfield. They actually shoehorned Reece James in the midfield last game with Ross Barkley. I think you could just see Ross Barkley get another start here. Despite playing on Wednesday, Ross Barkley has not played a ton this year. So he is fresh, to say the least. And at 5,500, Ross Barkley is one of their primary set piece takers. He also is a very talented attacking player. Chelsea has an embarrassment of depth. So if it gets complicated, right? Because we don't really have much samples of him on with Ziyech and Alonso. But realistically, I would project Ross Barkley to be part of that set mix. And at 5,500 to get a potential piece of Chelsea set pieces, that's just too good for sub 6,000. So big fan of Ross Barkley. Finally, I've been giving you so many top options at the top that I need to give you a punt here. And on the list, I just realized it. I paused for a second. Andy Robertson, very much a short list. You probably should know the drill by now, but when we have Liverpool fullbacks, when Trent Alexander-Arnold's lock and load, Robertson or Tsimikas is almost a lock and load on the other side. They split set pieces. Liverpool fullbacks are very, very attack oriented. We're getting Andy Robertson sub 6,000. To me, from a cash game, that's another one of those, you're almost immediately trying to just click that and just, it's just swinging the parts all the way to make it together. And finally, to make all those pieces, right? Expensive forwards, some middle level midfielders, but really solid floors, elite defenders. We're going to need a value. Jacobs Ramsey seems to be a guy that Steven Gerrard really does like, even as putting him in some attacking positions. But since Gerrard took over, 9, 4.7, and 5.8 DK, it's the worst matchup on the slate, right? So, I'll be looking to see if there's a spot starter for Arsenal, a spot starter for Southampton, anybody on the cheap end right now. Fabinho is a guy that's on there too. When I started building, my lineup's just filled with Liverpool and Chelsea players, and you have to have a third player from a team. So I think that in the sub 4,000 range, Jacob Ramsey is a guy that is in a more attacking position. We've seen Liverpool, even at home, even in games they've been up 4-5-0, still giving away shots and good scoring opportunities. So maybe Ramsey gets on the end of one of those. All right, that'll do it. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, hit the comments. We'll do our best to answer those, or feel free to reach out at GatorGuy231 on Twitter. And then again, check out all my content on FSI DFS, including the Soccer 101 series. I think you will very much enjoy it. Thank you all again. And with that, I'll say, see you.